Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Behind the Keeper's Screen. I'm your host, Johnny Omaha, and today we've got an amazing keeper behind this screen. It's none other than DM Steve. Steve, how you doing tonight?
Hey Johnny, how are you doing? I
Oh,
am good. I'm happy to be here and I'm excited to talk about some keeper
ooh.
strategies and our new campaign, Save Hell.
Dude, that's why I wanted to talk about. So you are running a new campaign, a Castles and Crusades campaign on YouTube. Is this
Correct.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, and you guys have a YouTube channel, and maybe we have to do a little for those that are a little sensitive around the words today. We might be getting into some areas here that may I don't know, make you
It's a little
tingle.
spicy.
Yeah, a
We're
little
a little
spicy.
cheeky.
Yeah, a little cheeky. So, and I love because it's a play on words. It's a little it's like we're 12 and 13-year-old boys again. Really, is what it is.
Correct. It is. It really is. And that's the spirit of it.
So you guys are Dix in the Dark, Dixin the Dark. So
Correct.
Dix in there, and your logo.
Right.
We'll let it. You'll probably see it. There's not much left to the imagination there. Talk to me about this name. How did this
D&D.
D&D? There it is.
D&D. You can see it right there in the logo. D&D. It works on multiple levels, and like you said, we're a little bit 12 and 13. We do revert when we play just a little bit, and that's kind of the spirit of it.
I got to be careful because that's D&D, but C and C, we probably don't want to go there with that name because I'm sure we could be really
Right.
creative.
No, 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 no. Yeah.
But because you
Cut
are,
that line of thought right
that's
now.
right. We're just gonna move on, but I'm sure our audience knows exactly where we're going with this. So you guys, even though you're D&D, you are playing Castles and Crusades, and you guys
Correct.
save hell, and you're using. Tell me about this. Tell me about this campaign that you got going on, Steve.
So we're using the second edition Planescape rules. So the old TSR Planescape from what, 94, 95,
Yeah,
and
Steve.
we're
People who
using
might not be familiar with Planescape, can you give them like the 40,000 foot view of what Planescape is?
right. Planescape is the multiverse. It is the idea that you have the outer planes, the inner planes, and in Planescape, they've created kind of this central area, Sigil and the Outlands that kind of bring all the planes together,
Hmm.
and that's kind of your adventuring hub in this great big multiverse.
Yeah. Is that the City of Doors? Is that what they call it?
Correct. The
Oh,
Cage, the City of Doors. Um, I know they just released a Wizards released a new Planescape. I haven't checked it out yet.
sure.
I'm thinking about it, but I have a ton of. If you can see behind me, I don't know. Actually, you can't see behind me
We
because we're not
we
zoomed
got
out
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
But you can see behind me. I've got a big shelf full of a bunch of different old school games, and I've got a big Planescape collection.
And you can definitely I'm sure you go over that stuff, and you've got a great background on your YouTube channel again, Dix in the Dark, Dix in the Dark, on YouTube. Definitely worth going. There'll be links in the description below. But
Thank you.
so Steve, so you've got talk to me about this campaign. Where did it originate from? Do you are you the forever castle keeper? Are you the forever DM?
I am.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So we haven't been dicks in the dark for this long, but this gaming group,
Yep.
or really, it's been around for 35 years.
Holy
Um,
cow.
my brother, myself, and a bunch of our friends started playing together regularly, or well, not 35, 30 years ago.
Okay.
30 years ago,
That's still
not
that's
35.
still a ton
Sorry.
of time.
Still a long time.
Even with the 5 years, that's a ton of time.
Right. 1995 is when we first started
Yep.
all playing together
Yep.
regularly. And that's where all this started. And we've just been chugging along ever since. About 7 years ago, we kind of split apart and
Mm.
there was distance, and we started to play online.
So Steve, what
And
when you
then
guys split apart, I mean, was it like was it life getting in the way? Like, because 30 years is a long span
right.
of time. Starting off, in your teenage years, and then you go through your 20s and 30s or whatever it is. But there's different chapters. Like, I feel like that amount of time really hit some milestones in everybody's life. Was that one of the? Is that what happened, or what happened there?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's milestones. Also, players leave, new players come.
Yep.
Obviously, you can see Cameron and Garrett, they haven't been playing for 35 or
Yeah.
for 30 years.
Yeah.
They haven't even been playing for 20 years. They're not even 30 years old.
Yeah.
So those are kind of like our new generation players. Um, we we just kind of went different ways.
Yep.
I moved for love, as
Oh.
you do,
Oh.
right? And so different people, Cameron went off to school.
Yep.
Everybody's going different ways, and so we decided we've got to try and figure something out. We got to play online maybe.
Isn't that
And
beautiful that
then
games can do that? Like, even though we span these massive distances, that it's these ties, these games, these characters, these game systems that are still bringing us all together.
right, right. Well, we were nervous at first, so we kind of hesitated,
Mm.
and then the lockdowns happened,
Oh wow.
and everyone started to play online, and we were like, "Huh, we can definitely do
Yeah.
this. Let's do this." And so that's what we decided to do, and we figured as long as we're playing online, why not share it?
Hmm.
And initially we played on Twitch, but we found that YouTube seemed like it had a better audience for actual play, live play type content.
Sure.
So we switched over to YouTube, and we were playing our Dungeons and Dragons game, which we still play live every Wednesday,
Hmm.
but we wanted to play another game, something else,
Yeah.
and not just an in-betweener game when somebody's missing. We
Right.
wanted to play another full campaign. I had the itch, and Cameron, one of my players, kept bringing up Planescape
Mm.
because he was really interested in that, that full planar
Oh
exploration,
yeah. The endless
being able to.
possibilities. Yeah.
Right, right, absolutely. And he kept bringing it up, and I was thinking, oh, I would love to run a second edition Planescape game like I did back in the day. But what I wouldn't love is to run a second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game, because as much as I cut my teeth on that system,
Yeah.
and as much as I do have a love for it, it's fiddly, it's complex, unnecessarily so. It's got a lot of baggage
Hmm.
from, the first edition of AD&D, and I kept thinking, is there a system that will satisfyingly give me that old school, all of the options from advanced,
Yep.
that's really just streamlined, that I can run from my head? Because it's really difficult to run AD&D 1 or 2 from your head.
Sure.
But Castles and Crusades is such an elegant system. It's
Mhm.
so simple that you can run it from your head. And I thought, it gives me all of the options I need. I can convert on the fly because I know AD&D and D,
Yep.
and I know Castles and Crusades, and they're so it's really, I mean, I know they tout the newest versions of D&D are like, "Oh, they set all backward compatible." No, I feel like Castles and Crusades is way more backwards compatible with classic Dungeons and Dragons if you're trying to convert material.
Sure. So, Steve, so did you have Castles and Crusades kind of in your peripheral, or how did you know that you're like, hey, I love what you said. I want to run a game, but I also don't want to run the game about
Hmm.
that. So, were you kind of going through systems and sifting through them, or did you kind of know that was your North Star of Castles and
That
Crusades?
was my North Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Castles and Crusades. I didn't find Castles and Crusades when it first launched
Yeah.
because it was just kind of buried in a
Yeah.
way in the beginning with all that D20 stuff.
Sure.
And it wasn't until I discovered Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG.
Hmm.
I think they put that out in 2012, where I felt like, okay, this is something interesting
Oh
with
yeah.
the D20 systems. Somebody's doing something interesting. But even that system felt a little much to me.
Yeah. That book
And so I
is
started,
massive. It's fun,
yeah,
it's super old school. I love the
so
spells
great,
in Dungeon Called Classics, and it's just gonzo and fun. But that book, dude,
amazing.
is just like what chonk chonka.
Yeah, yeah. It's so massive that some fan put together like a book of just tables,
Yeah.
and I think Goodman made it official because it was so good. They needed,
They just
like an
maybe we get
extra
some
reference,
a little smaller.
which is great, right? I love it when when companies do that. But yeah, that's what kind of keyed me in to Castles and Crusades.
Mm,
I took a look at it, the single book,
yep.
the player's handbook, everything is really in there. Yes, there is a castle keeper's guide that came out later, I think,
Yep.
but not necessary, you know. Absolutely can run it from that one book and Monsters and Treasure. So simple, so easy, and it just yeah, it just gave me what I wanted.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So running it, it kind of gave hooked you with that feel because you wanted that second edition, but you also wanted to run it kind of effortlessly. I would say, that you don't want all this
Correct.
mental math, maybe not
Right.
Thaco, like figuring out like what. And so it's really cool that you had your kind of wish list, and it seemed like Castles and Crusades really checked the box for each of those things you were looking for.
Right, right. I'm perfect. I mean, AD&D has each ability score has this list of all of these different things, and some of them are percentile, and some of them are D6, and
Yeah.
it's all these different little things. And Castles and Crusades is just so simple with the absolute basic
Yep.
modifiers,
Yep.
and then the siege engine on top of that is just kind of the cherry on top.
Hmm.
You know I really like that extra little way to customize for your players, for their characters.
Absolutely. So you kind of knew you were locked into Castles and Crusades. What did your players think? Were they just kind of along for the ride wherever you were going to take them, or did they have some skin in the game here?
I think so. I think they were just kind of along for the ride. We have a lot of, like I said, we've been playing for a long time
Hmm.
together. So we have a lot of trust between, them and me, also being, again, the forever keeper. Uh, they kind of have to trust
Yeah,
me
it's like
in a
guys,
way.
unless you're running.
Right, right. And not that no one ever has, but for the most part, if it's especially if it's a long running campaign,
Yeah.
it's going to be me. Um Now, Dan, my brother, my older brother, that's Dungeon Dan there in the middle. He he had played before. We played Castles and Crusades. We played a maybe about a year campaign, um, maybe about 10 years ago,
Oh wow.
and that went really well.
Okay.
And then we've played little things since.
Hmm.
I think there was a fan mod, like a Western fan mod for Castles and Crusades.
Okay.
And I think we played a brief Western game that was kind of fun.
Very cool.
So so he and I had that in common. Now
Yeah.
Cameron and Garrett, the other two players, they're a little bit younger. They weren't with us at the time when we were, playing Castles and Crusades, but totally open. Plus, both of them are kind of a little bit new school players. They've played
Yeah.
newer versions and are kind of more familiar with, you know, that kind of D20 type system.
Sure. Sure. So you guys are playing online here, is that right?
Correct.
what are you guys using for your tools of choice online?
So for our game, we use our virtual table is Roll 20, and it has its pluses and its minuses.
Okay.
The pluses for Roll 20 are that it has a great Castles and Crusades character sheet,
Okay.
and in fact has excellent character sheets for tons of different games. It does have also Castles and Crusades rules so that you can have your rules right in Roll 20, so you can purchase, for example, the player's handbook, right? And have it right there in Roll 20. It's got a lot of neat features, especially if you're a paid member. So I think I do the first tier. It's not the highest tier, but that gives me access to more storage and things like dynamic lighting,
Oh,
that sort of
cool.
thing.
Yeah.
Now, this game that we're playing right here is, for the most part, theater of the mind.
Which I love,
So,
by the way. I love
mhm,
theater of the mind games, especially online. I feel like online theater of the mind is just chef's kiss. Like I really think people that could do the
right.
online, because I just think the VTTs. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm too old. I don't know. It really turns it into a minis combat game. You know. I also love what
Again,
you've done here. Like which let me make sure that I don't have you covering it, but you've got some cool stuff where you have some of the player portraits here. I have you covering up one of these here. So let me move you a little bit,
mhm,
Steve. We'll move that here. See if we can get you.
all right.
There's one more. You peek. There it is.
Reg,
Yeah, there's which I love that character, by the way. Um, Probably my favorite character in the, which is so fun. It's a this
excellent.
is a
Yeah,
Planescape campaign for Planescape fans. Like you guys
totally.
go in hard and it feels amazing. And in fact, you didn't just jump into the deep end here, Steve. You actually did not one, not two, but three session zeros. So I don't exactly know if that's zero divided by zero, which I don't know, or multiplied by zero, or however that is. But
Right.
so talk to me about your three session zeros that you guys did.
So we did 3 character introductions. Initially, my idea was throw everyone all together and just start.
Let God sort them out.
Eh, yeah. And I thought, you know what? Instead of doing that, let me give my players just a little bit of time to kind of explore their character in their home environment.
Yeah, on their plane. Yeah,
Right. Of course. And that way they get a chance to see, to feel out. Because when you first play a character, you
yeah,
kind of have to feel them out,
yep,
right? They get a chance to feel themselves in that home environment, their characters, and not be just thrown in and have to figure out, okay, is my character acting, plus how am I dealing with these other two characters
right.
that I don't know. So I thought, let's expand that. Let's make sure each character gets a little bit of an introduction so you know who the character is and, you know, what's happening with them
Yeah,
prior to the big event,
right.
the summoning,
Yeah, to me
which,
it was
yeah,
oh, yes. Sorry.
yeah.
Continue.
Well, I was just going to say the
Yeah.
summoning, which is episode 1, where all 3 characters are summoned into a hellish dungeon and they have to work together. The tagline for Save Hell is "Bound by fate, 3 souls unite in the depths of hell to make things right."
Oh,
And that's where it begins. So they're summoned into this dungeon and they have to work together to figure out how to get out, how to survive, what's even going on here.
yeah. To me, what I was before I didn't let you finish, I was so excited to tell you. It felt like set serve spike. Like it just was like you really set the board up and especially really lean into the planescape portion of this because we got to see the three different planes and then each of the characters. And like you said, you really gave the player the ability
Hmm.
to kind of have some one-on-one time with you. You know, you'd mentioned that
Right.
obviously you and Dungeon Dan being brothers, kind of have a connection. But for Cameron and Garrett,
Mhm.
like, have you guys played previously before, or is this your first game?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They're regular members of the group. We play like I said, we play live every Wednesday
So in
night.
the
Our
D&D
Dungeons and
campaign.
Dragons game.
Yeah, I don't watch
So
that. I only watch Castles
yeah, yeah,
Crusades.
yeah.
So
Of course, and we do other stuff as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
We do other type tabletop type games. But yeah, so we've been playing together for quite a while. Those guys, we have a rhythm, and I think you can kind of tell.
yes,
Everybody has a rhythm. Also the thing about our group is that Garrett is one of the closest friends of my son. I've known Garrett from since like they were in Little League together,
oh wow,
right? Same thing with Cameron. He was close with my kid in high school, and like senior year of high school, he practically lived at our house.
yeah.
So these are people that I consider like family,
Yeah.
basically.
Which again, I think it really goes back to the bonds that we create over these games. Like, how amazing is that?
Right.
Because that's the thing I struggle with, I think, from gaming, because here we are, and you could game with anybody in the world, but sometimes your kids or your family or whatever is right in the other room, and it's just like, well, should I be gaming with them, or am I gaming with people
Right.
online, or like, what do you do? And I love that you've kind of built your community of people that mean something to you, Steve, and you're being able to like kind of reinforce that and spend time with people that you
Mhm.
care about, and just have a great time doing it and make some great memories, and a little laugh and a little bit of suspense and intrigue in this particular
Right.
one. So that's
Right. Right.
super fun. So you guys are playing online. You've been playing for a while. And the theater
Mhm.
of the mind, I think, works so well here. You
Right.
guys are doing rolls. So this, on the left-hand side of the screen, we see intelligence check, and a couple intelligence checks and a dexterity check. Is that all roll 20 as well?
That's all through roll 20.
Okay.
So I do things a little bit differently. Even though we use roll 20, I roll actual dice.
Yes.
I have
Yes. Yes.
real dice in front of me, and I roll,
Let's
real
roll. Let's roll.
dice.
I got a real dice right
All
here.
right.
Let's roll. High roll wins.
What do you want to roll?
I got a
What
D20,
die?
and I think you won.
D20.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here we
I got a.
go.
I don't know if the camera's gonna see it. I got a 4.
Oh, I got a 10.
Yeah, you win. Nice job. See, way better than a
Excellent.
freaking virtual dice roller. So take that,
Right,
virtual
right,
dice
right,
rollers.
right. So I have a big pile of dice. I roll real dice, and I do kind of all the normal calculations in my head that I
Yep.
need to do
Right.
on my side.
Yep.
They all use roll 20 for their rolls.
Sure.
Um, roll 20 does have a little option where you can see virtual dice rolls. You can see a little die roll onto your table. You can kind of see. Now, sometimes that's frustrating because sometimes it'll kind of land on a Virtus, and you'll be like, it'll register as the worse of the two rolls. And you'll be like, it's the 20. It's
It's
like
the
right there.
20.
You can see it. It
Yeah.
looks like it's on a 20. Those are always fun.
That's
But I
hilarious.
guess in a way that also simulates, you roll on your book and
That's
then it
right.
kind of gets stuck in the crevice, and it's oh no, you got to re-roll
Yeah,
that, man.
yeah. That's not right. That's a
Yeah.
reroll. That's a reroll. No, I give, that's my hot take, I think. I'm trying to not do too many hot takes here on Behind the Keeper screen, but I think I might
All
go with
right.
the hot take, which is roll real dice. Like, I just think there's so many beautiful dice out there, and I may have a dice problem, Steve. So roll real
Oh,
dice.
yeah. Oh, you have no idea. Oh, I have a massive
Oh my
dice
gosh,
problem.
tell me about
I
that
have
one. I've not seen that dice before.
this is what is this? Is this a D128? I think is what this is.
I've never
There's a
here. Put
D120.
that right
No, I
center in
think
the
it's a
camera for everybody to
120.
look at that. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, give that a
it's
roll.
ridiculous.
Let's see what we roll on
I'll
that guy.
give this one a roll. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Uh, that's gonna be a 52.
52.
52.
All right. Well, that means you've entered the
That
Love Shack portion of the show where we
Woo!
yeah, Love Shack, baby. Yeah, where we're going to talk about no, there is no Love Shack, but there might need to be. I'm going to make a Love Shack portion. I'm writing this down.
Right, right.
Love Shack
You should do that.
B52s. Uh fat but see,
But no, you
that's how much fun real dice are.
right, right. You had asked about the section over there on the side of the screen
Yes.
though. So in roll 20, when you roll the virtual dice, it comes up in the roll 20 chat, and
Yep.
that's what that is. So we basically record our games the same way that you record this show. We play on Discord,
Yep.
and then I just capture all of Discord. I capture an instance of roll 20 that's like a player instance essentially,
Sure.
and I capture the chat, and then we just go.
That's awesome. So you do play your D&D stream live? Do you play your Castles and Crusades stream live as well?
No, no.
Okay.
In fact, yeah, in fact, we play way ahead. So
Oh.
I have to censor myself
Oh,
to avoid
yeah, no
spoilers
spoilers.
because we just recorded the session that will be episode 4 and 5.
Okay. And only one is out at the moment of this recording, which is early January.
Correct.
So early
Correct,
January
correct.
2025, only one episode of Save Hell is out, and it's a fantastic episode. I have to tell you that. It's
Episode 2
yeah.
will be out or may already be out by the time this video is out, January 18th.
Okay.
And that is the evening of Saturday. I'm on the East Coast, so I generally try and get them out, 9, 10 o'clock, something. Uh, so late night, Saturday, the 18th. So very soon, maybe already.
Yeah, who knows if check look run don't walk to your nearest
Right.
calendar and check the date, and if it is the 18th, we are looking for Save Hell episode 2 on YouTube.
We
Dix
are.
in the dark, DIX in the dark. That's right.
Excellent.
That's right. So
Absolutely.
so fabulous. So Steve, so you talked. So this is interesting. Forever CK, forever DM, whatever we want to talk about it. Why do you
Right.
think that is? Why is there kind of a person in the group that is usually like they're just the one? Where do you think that phenomenon stems from?
I think the nature of role playing games, really. Um, when I first started, I can tell you that the reason that I became DM in the very beginning
Mm-hmm.
is because I didn't have anybody to play with.
Mm,
And, I learned when I was 10. My best friend taught me at a sleepover. He pulled out this red book and this bag of weird dice and this green character sheet, and I played Mordok the Fighter all night long until we passed out, woke up the next day, continued playing until I had vanquished the evil wizard. I don't remember his name. It was a really long time ago. But I was hooked. The problem was I had moved
yeah.
and I didn't live near my friend anymore who had taught me D&D, and I was already struggling to make friends as the, weird new kid. So I had to learn
Mm-hmm.
to be the game master in order to teach other people.
Yeah.
And that just kind of continued. I feel like once you're locked into that role,
Yeah.
it's kind of expected, but also at the same time, I feel like somebody who takes the castle keeper role, it's because you want to create that world.
Yeah.
You want to create a space for your players where they can just explore everything from your twisted mind. And
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of that. There are things in my brain I got to get them out.
Yeah. But it's very much a if you build it, they will come for like Field of Dreams, you know?
Right.
Especially, I appreciate you sharing that. It can be hard to share some of those things, growing up and making it's tough to even now, especially now, I would say in this age. This is where I'm like, get off my lawn. But the kids and screens right now. I mean, I've got two boys,
Right.
yeah, oh my gosh, in their teens. And
Hmm.
it is this screen we've had to fight tooth and nail to like have human connection versus
Right.
which I think that's what's interesting about, you know, I love playing in person. Like I think virtual tabletop, especially with the group that you've built, I think it can work and work well. But I guess that's the thing with these screens. Maybe it's more the way we consume content. Maybe that's where this weird train of thought is going. Like that, you're an active participant when you're doing role playing online. Like it's like a tennis match where you serve the ball to me and then I serve the ball back to you instead of this endless scrolling and you're just, on Instagram or you're on TikTok and you're
Right.
just all content all the time.
Right. Right. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, it's online play is not for everyone.
Hmm.
It is definitely not. I've played with some people that have said, "Mm, no, I just don't think I can do this. I just can't get into it. Maybe there are too many distractions. I want to be at a table with other people.
Sure.
There's a certain uh, camaraderie that you get all together. It is missing a little bit
I think
when
though
you're
that
online.
you've captured it though. I think that's the word camaraderie because of the
Thank you.
previous relationship. That's what I think I like most about Save Hell is that you can
Hmm.
see the fun that these guys are having. Like they are invested in their characters. They're invested in this world. They're invested in you. You can see that trust is palpable at the table,
Right.
especially here
Cool.
because they're in.
That's so cool to
Yeah,
hear. I'm
yeah,
so glad that you said that.
yeah,
I mean, it really that's really neat. We do have that trust, and I feel invested too.
yeah.
Of course, I feel invested in their characters, invested in just everything that's happening in the game. And I want everybody to just really have a good time.
Well, it definitely shows. So, Steve, when you're that's your goal, right? As a castle keeper, you're looking for everybody to have a
Mhm.
good time. What are your
Yeah.
techniques that you like to what do you use to implement that? Like it's not just you wave a magic wand and everyone has a good time. What are you like I feel like it's almost like driving that you're constantly surveying, checking your mirrors, checking the speed,
Hmm.
you're always kind of like doing the scanning. Like what are the patterns or habits that you're doing in order to make sure that your players are having a good time, especially when it comes to gaming online.
Right. I mean, it really is just paying attention to your players and paying attention to the characters as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like your players will tell you things, but the characters will also tell you things. So you really have to key in because you can find where the game is supposed to go by the energy of your players,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can always feel like if somebody is not just down with a certain aspect of the game, you get that like almost immediately.
Yeah.
So you can kind of weave. Now, as you said, we've been together for a long time. We have a camaraderie that exists from prior to online. So for us, it's not as difficult.
Right.
We don't
Well, it's earned.
I
You've
it's
earned
it's
it.
not
You,
hard for
yeah.
me. Right, right. And it's not hard for me to read those guys, to understand. Um Sometimes the best ideas in your game come right from your players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes you will be kind of headed down a path and somebody will say something, maybe even in character, and you'll be like, "Wha-" like That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that? And then why not implement that thing?
Hmm. Well, it's like
You
gift. It's
know,
like
and they don't.
Christmas. Yeah.
It's like Christmas,
Yeah.
and your players don't even have to know. I mean,
Right.
you can kind of tell them later. A lot of times, I'll let them,
Yeah.
after the fact, once there's no spoilers. Once we everything has happened, I'll tell them later. But yeah, they don't need to know that.
Well,
They don't even know that that was their idea.
how rewarding is that though? To like basically the player gives you an idea and you're like, that's better than anything I could have ever thought of. That's what happens. But you keep
Hmm.
this part as your inner monologue, and then you're like,
Right,
yes,
right.
you figured it out. Like, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I figured it out.
Sure,
Oh,
sure.
you know,
And you don't have to take exactly what they said, but you can
sure.
always
Yeah.
incorporate the things. And it just, I think it makes the game flow.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, as the castle keeper, you never really know what's going to happen.
Mm,
You can plan and plan and plan, but your players could just go left at any moment,
yeah.
and you just don't know. So you have to be able to kind of read your players and understand, like, okay, if this is what they want to do,
Right.
how do I kind of facilitate this and continue along this track? And then how do I build that into further portions of the game?
Right.
Because clearly that's what they want to do.
Mhm.
So, you pay attention and you kind of learn from your players.
So, DM Steve, I love how you just said this. You plan and plan and plan. So, what does your planning regiment look like? Are you planning? Are you riffing? Like, because you've got a lot of experience doing this as the
Hmm.
forever castle keeper. So, what does your planning regiment kind of look like?
So it depends on what we're doing.
Yep.
So with the character introductions, those were a little bit more of almost a little bit more of a narrative.
Yeah.
And I worked with the players to develop, like, kind of like, not exactly what was going to happen, but what is your background? Where do you want your character to start? How do you want this all to start for
Yeah.
you? And we talked about it. For example, Dungeon Dan plays the character Reginald Sinclair,
This is awesome.
and Reg is a Union assassin in an alternate Earth Civil War. And basically, in his character introduction, he is trying to assassinate the Confederate president, Jefferson Davis, to end the war, essentially. And that's like his mission. And we had talked about that, kind of extensively. And so that was it was woven together from things that they told me. I kind of built a little narrative and then ran them through it. That's not typically what I would do,
Sure.
right? But I felt like we needed to have that for those introductions so that you could
Hmm.
get to know the characters, because of the way that I was throwing them together in episode 1,
Yeah.
just, kind of in the middle of things.
Did you let each of the other characters watch the session zeros, or no?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, if you watch the 3 session zeros, you can actually see the other guy is kind of small up in the corner.
Oh, no way. I didn't
So
catch
you can
that.
yeah, so you can see them, and sometimes they'll react. The other thing about Roll 20 is that you can just type in that chat. So if you're really eagle-eyed, sometimes you'll see one of the other players, like, make a comment in
Okay.
chat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
to
So
look.
I'm pretty sure.
See, this is why we
I'm
do
pretty
behind the keeper screen, to get these nuggets.
Right, right. I'm pretty sure in Garrett's character introduction, which is Brundy's story, there's a section where Dungeon Dan is kind of typing some funny things into the chat. So you don't hear it. He's not saying anything.
Right,
But if
right. Yeah.
really paying attention to the video, you'll see like a little Easter egg.
Yeah, because I when I do most of the let's plays that because I love Theater of the Mind so much, so most of the let's plays I am actually doing I'm cleaning my house maybe, and I've got a let's play on in my earbuds. So yeah, so
Right.
which you can miss those visual kind of
Hmm.
Easter eggs when you're doing that. So
Right.
um,
Right.
and we can see actually here behind you, we can see that virtual dice, the fuchsia dice on top of that would be, I think, that's Cameron's character, right?
That is Garrett's
This character.
character,
Okay, yeah.
Brenier. Yeah.
So why don't we take a minute and talk about? So we've talked about the players. Let's talk about the characters. So
Okay.
you actually talked about Reginald already.
Hmm.
So who is this Union assassin in an alternate history, Civil War plane? Talk to me about. I guess it would be Garrett as is it Brunier?
Yeah. So it's Brenier
Brunier.
or Brundy.
Brundy. I like Brundy.
Brundy is his. Yeah. Yeah. So Brundy is a Tiefling Paladin
Whoa.
from Faerun or Faerun, depending on how you say it. That's the Forgotten Realms. Uh, it's a land in the Forgotten Realms, Toril, I think. That setting, Planescape. That's something uh, we might want to talk about with Planescape. It
Yeah.
brings together a bunch of different settings from the
Yeah.
old school Dungeons and Dragons, so Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance, so
Yeah.
kind of all exist in the same world. And so Brenier is from the Forgotten Realms, essentially. He lives at the Temple of Torm, kind of a peaceful temple, idyllic by a lake in the country. He lives with his mother and kind of has this nice little life with his friends until he finds a ring. Dun dun
Yeah,
dun.
that's right.
Starting,
That's
yeah, starting his big adventure. And I thought that it was I thought that it would be interesting. Garrett wanted to play a tiefling since we were playing Planescape.
yeah.
And uh, initially, he talked about playing a ranger, and
Mm,
I floated to him the idea of playing a paladin because even though that's not normally a thing that you can do,
right.
I thought, wouldn't it be cool?
Which that's the rule. That's the rule of Castles and Crusades. Dot
Right.
dot dot. Wouldn't it be cool?
Wouldn't
So
it be cool?
Steve, how did you handle Tiefling as a race, like racial bonuses? Did you guys just house rule that, or how did you do that?
Well, see, that's the thing I was saying before about Castles and Crusades and like older Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons is that it's so easy to just take anything. We did it on the fly.
Wow.
Really, almost everything just worked.
Hmm.
I think the only thing that we found were if somebody had played, like if Garrett had played a rogue or some sort of a thief,
Yep.
we would have had to change percentile into, you know, like 5% is, plus 5% is plus one,
Hmm.
plus 10% is plus two on a 20. That would have been the only thing we had to do.
Like
Everything
mechanically.
else
Yeah.
just worked. Yeah. I mean, we kind of did it on the fly. We kind of checked our books and kind of said, yeah, this just works.
Do you remember what bonuses you gave him or anything like that, or what? How did you kind of house rule the Tiefling?
I think it just really, I think it just was there were some bonuses to ability scores. There might have even been some penalties to ability
Yeah.
scores. So we
Yeah.
just applied those one to one. And then mostly for Tiefling, there were some racial abilities.
Yeah.
And those just worked out of the
Oh
box.
wow. Very cool. Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
that's fun. Uh, talk to me about Cameron.
So Cameron is kind of the opposite of Garrett's character. Uh, Cameron's character is Atheus Belamonte, and he is a Azamar wizard.
Wow. So for people who aren't familiar with Azamar, well, and even so, tieflings
Mhm.
are kind of like the I don't know, the corrupted blood, the little deep kind of deep, like kind of the dark, like emo, where they got the
Right. Well,
horns. They're devil blood, but not devils. They've broken the
right,
curse. They're
right.
cursed, but not cursed. They're kind of the yeah, what would you call it? The twilight. Like where I got a foot in the darkness, but I'm still a heart of gold, but I have an appearance of a demon.
Right. Well, we are using the classic Tiefling and Aasimar. So really, a Tiefling has a heritage of a like a human,
Okay.
and then some sort of fiend, like a like a devil, for example. And so that's actually part of Brundy or Brenier's story,
Yeah.
is that he has his mother is a paladin, a human paladin, and his father is perhaps something else. So
Whoa.
that's part of Brenier's mystery, or Brundy's mystery,
Yeah.
is that he is his lineage, in fact. And that's kind of the same thing with Cameron's character,
Yeah.
Apheus. He is part human, but then part angelic.
Yeah. It's a regular omen, or what is it? The Bad Omens, that show.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
That's cool. And I appreciate that because I didn't realize that there was an older style of those two types of characters. Because I really
Hmm.
only got into role playing later in life. So like
Oh wow.
I first got in on fourth edition of Dungeons and Dragons. So like I know. So what a glorious time to come in. Uh
Wow, yeah.
it was it was trial by fire, let me tell you that. But had a great group. So all I know of, like through Player's Handbook 1 through 3, because that's where all the classes were.
Mm.
I think Tiefling was in, but yeah, I just remember Tiefling being the. It's cool to know that there's a heritage that goes back, though.
Right, right. Tiefling and Aasimar, I think, originate with the Planescape, because they kind of figure,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
if you're playing in the planes, you've got to have some planar races with some planar heritage. So they did that, and definitely very, very cool characters. Um, as I was saying with Cameron's
yeah,
character, he plays an Aasimar wizard, so he's kind of this angelic guy. Um, but his character introduction shows that he doesn't have a very angelic life. He kind of is the whipping boy for a very, very eccentric and sometimes cruel wizard named Archimethil Garathes.
wow.
Um,
Where do you get these names,
a
Steve?
name
Where do you get the names?
uh, I specifically, that's a little bit of a cheekiness from me. Sometimes I will make up names that my players have to pronounce, and I like specifically make them, a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
So Cameron's character, Apheus, and I think I did it because he does that to me too. Apheus. It took me a second
yeah,
to kind of get that, and he's had other characters that I've struggled with. So given a little bit of his own medicine,
yeah,
I thought, man, I need a wild wizard name.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Uh,
So what?
so
So
our
is it a? I want to say it's like an onomatopoeia, but it's not. What's it where it's got there's hidden words if you like re. Is it anagram? Is that what that's called?
anagram, yeah,
Yeah.
it
So
is
there
not.
any
Oh,
anagrams in
that
there?
would have been great. That would have been
Yeah.
great. No, 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 no,
Okay.
no. My players don't know it, but if they watch this, there are anagrams in characters in our other games. So
Oh,
shh. But maybe I'll stick some in Save Hell, now that
we gotta.
it's been revealed that I have done that in the past.
It's gotta do it. We gotta when they will least suspect it.
Right.
So going through these characters, it's so cool. So we saw them in the session zeros, kind of doing their thing, and then they're thrown together from the event, and they wake up on this hellish landscape. I mean, so what?
Right.
So you go from these kind of and I don't mean this in a disparaging way. It's not paint by numbers, but it really did have like it felt like at each one of them, like when I think it was Brundy. Yeah, Brundy's one in particular
Hmm.
felt like I had visions of oil painting. Like there was like it was an
Hmm.
idyllic because he's coming from the kind of idyllic place where there's a tower and a castle and fields and just this beautiful. It felt like an oil painting to
Right.
me, and like each one, I feel like you really capture a different medium would be the word I would say,
Hmm.
and I really think that so I just have to commend you for the planes, and then we come to this plane, and it's like everything you thought you knew, throw it out the window.
Right. 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 Yeah, I mean that was purposeful,
Hmm.
obviously. And like I said, I knew that they were going to get thrown together. So I knew that I needed to kind of paint for them and really for anybody that happened to be watching or listening uh the the state of their character before everything happens. You know, just to get a little bit of a glimpse of who they are before they're thrown into this,
Yeah.
this crazy dungeon where they're stuck and they literally have to work together or die.
So the big shift then, because we went from kind of a more linear narrative to now, this doesn't feel. Now I feel like I'm playing a classic, player agency. I feel like
Mhm.
you have given them the reins that they can pretty much go wherever they want to. Obviously they're constrained in this particular it starts, but
Right.
I feel like it's because that's where they've started, but not just that you're getting
Mhm.
them all aboard the railroad train. Woo woo. I feel like,
Right, right, right.
yep. What are your thoughts? So was there a big shift there, or how did you swap from this more linear narrative to now where there's a little more player agency?
I mean, that's pretty easy to do. Once they had established their characters, all you really need to do is kind of swap to the idea of the sandbox dungeon
Yep.
essentially.
Yep.
So in a dungeon, it's enclosed. Once they're in there, I mean, especially with this one, they're essentially locked in the dungeon until they find a way out.
Hmm.
They can do whatever they want in there. So the dungeon is kind of meticulously planned with all the little secrets and all the various things. So that there's a lot of planning there, but there's not a lot of narrative planning on
Sure.
my part. Right? I switched from the kind of narrative. I'll be honest, I had certain things in my mind when I was creating each of the character introductions. You talked about Brundies. I don't know if you're familiar or if you ever played JRPGs growing up.
Oh my gosh.
Games like Final
Oh
Fantasy
yeah.
or Lunar,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So so if you listen to Brundy's story, you'll feel a little bit of like
Yes.
first chapter old school
Yes.
JRPG.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was a purposeful thing. That's what I wanted. I
Yeah.
wanted that feeling of like, oh, he's just in this small little burg with his friends. He's
Yeah.
got this girl that kind of likes him, and he's got his best friends, and they go on this little adventure, and that kind of opens it up.
Yep.
Also, I kind of thought that's the that's the light one.
Yes.
Even though it kind of ends in a very dramatic way,
Yep.
it's kind of very light.
Yes.
And then you go to Reg's intro, which is a little darker because he's at this Confederate camp and he's on a mission to, assassinate the leader of the Confederacy. So it's a little bit more gritty.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of combat in that one. And we really played that out. That was not like it wasn't scripted in any way. Him taking that guy to the woods, I thought, "Oh, Dan,
This
you
is
might enter hell in a totally different way."
yeah, this isn't Reservoir Dogs. Come on.
Right.
Come on, Dad.
Right, right. So yeah, that kind of went a little bit darker, and then I felt like the final character introduction with Apheus, with Cameron's character, really kind of tied things together because it brought things back to the planescape. You know,
Right.
he's there on the Outlands, which that's another mystery too. Keen people will wonder how a wizard could have a tower on the Outlands. Not something normally possible,
Right.
but stay tuned
Ooh.
because secrets abound.
Wow.
But that kind of ties it in. He's the also the classic wizard's apprentice.
Mm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
that has to suffer the old wizard in order to gain knowledge,
Yeah.
essentially.
Until he sets all the
um
brooms alive, and then all hell breaks
right,
loose.
right. So then going from that to just putting everybody into a dungeon, you just really have to plan out the dungeon. The nice thing about that is the dungeon actually takes a couple of sessions.
Yeah.
So once you've planned the first session, you can kind of sit back for a little
Yeah.
while.
So forgive the pun, sorry, but it seems like you moved from planning to execution. Ah?
Ah.
Oh, because you're going to kill him. That's why I said that.
Yes,
So
yes, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So Steve, so for maybe people that haven't done a castle keeping before, like this dungeon design, where do you start? Like what if you were to tell somebody like this I want to be a castle keeper, I want to make a dungeon like this. Maybe it's in hell, maybe it's not in hell. Where do you start with a dungeon like this? And maybe just can you walk me through the design of one room? Because it sounds like you meticulously were getting each room, and like how did you know where
Mhm.
you're going to do monsters? How did you know this is going to be a trap room? This is where items are going to be here. How do you kind of conjure that up? Um, you know, if you could walk me through that process.
Right, right. I'm a little bit of a jerk with this dungeon because you'll see. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm a little bit of a jerk with this one. You'll see. They have a they have a dealing, and it's well, pretty funny. Anyway, the style of the dungeon, I think that you don't want to have too many things all together. So you don't want to have monster after
Sure.
monster after, you want to kind of spread things out um, to make the dungeon interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If there's just, combat,
Yep.
combat, combat without a break to maybe do a little bit of a puzzle or to, you know, have to interact,
Mm-hmm.
with a character or something. You you want to kind of break it up in
Mm-hmm.
that way. Um, Now, granted, you can do just combat. I mean,
Oh,
it
sure.
depends on what your players want, really.
Oh, ding, ding,
I
ding,
mean,
ding, ding.
that's the main thing. I'll actually tell you, I don't have them on hand, but I sent out questionnaires
Oh,
to Garrett, Dan, and Cameron ahead of the game
yeah,
with questions like, or I think it was a rate 1 to 5,
yeah,
and so I put all these different things like, how much are you interested in exploring the background of your own character?
yeah.
How much are you interested in possibly returning to your own character's world and exploring your own character's world? How what's your interest in um the depth of the arcane knowledge of the planes, different things like that. So I
Yeah.
had them rate, um you know are you interested in city adventures? Are you interested in dungeon adventures? Are you interested in wilderness adventures? So I had all these numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to kind of see, okay, what do my guys want? And
Yeah.
I already kind of knew. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
But it's nice, dude.
like I
Data
said.
data driven design is not it's
Mhm.
there's a comfort to it because there's a tangibility to those numbers. Oh, these are great, by
Hmm.
the way. The thing that just popped up. You did these breakers, man. Tell me about these
Yeah.
breakers. There he goes. There it is. That's DIX
So
in the dark, everybody.
so for younger viewers, you will know that that is a riff or a parody of the little Disney Channel segments. And the music is even from the Disney Channel. And it took me a second to even realize what it was because Garrett did that on his own. I was like, hey, guys, record me some. Because, like I said, since we record so far in
Yeah,
advance, and then I just edit things, and really I'll do just tiny bits of editing for um like, somebody has to take a bathroom break or
sure,
something.
sure,
We're
sure.
like, okay, we got to stop the game. Okay, so there's a little break there, so I'll go ahead and stick something right there.
Yeah,
And I just like, guys, send me whatever you
little
send me,
breakers.
and that's what Garrett sent me, and I
That's
was
funny. I
like,
remember the
oh, that's
Disney
perfect.
where the kids would draw the Disney D, and
Yes, that's what that's supposed to
yeah,
be.
that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my
excellent.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Sorry, that's a tangent. That's the kind of games you can
It's
expect
okay.
with D&D.
Right.
Um
Right.
so, oh my gosh, where even were we? We were talking about the planes and the characters
Oh,
and data.
dungeon
Yes,
design.
yes, data-driven decisions. And so, did you use Google Forms or Google Sheets, or what did you use to do your survey?
I think I just used Gmail.
Yeah.
I think I
Oh,
just
so you
I
just
think I
combined it
just
Gmail and you're like, type the number in.
yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
I think I did. I think I sent them all a Gmail and just said, "Hey guys,
Yeah.
just send me this back." And they did. Um Now we are kind of famous for spreadsheets. Our Dungeons and Dragons game is very, very, very complicated, and there are a lot of characters. And sometimes our viewers make fun of us because we bring spreadsheets up on the stream. Fortunately, Save Hell is a lot more simple. There's only three
Yeah.
characters,
We'll call it intimate even.
so
Nice and intimate.
intimate.
It's nice and
Yes,
intimate.
yes. And so when designing a dungeon for these guys, I'm really just thinking about what's going to keep them interested,
Yeah.
what's going to keep them engaged. And I know that, wow, man, sometimes just plowing through a bunch of dungeon monsters in a
Oh
dungeon
yeah.
and just getting treasure so that's great.
Yeah.
But I knew with this game that they wanted more, that they
Mhm.
wanted something a little bit more deep. And so I wanted to make sure that they had a variety of
Sure.
challenges.
Sure. Was there anything unexpected that you felt that after you sent these surveys and you're like, "Whoa, I did not expect, like, no way. This is getting either a way lower number or a way higher number than you initially thought." And I know you know these guys, so probably not so much, but was there anything that just
Yeah.
jumped out at you?
Hmm. No, I was
You're like,
pretty.
"I got him dead to rights."
Yeah, I was pretty good. Again, there were a lot of questions on
Yeah.
this questionnaire,
Yeah.
and but yeah, I feel like, well, they had kind of told me what
Yep.
they wanted ahead of time, especially out of this game, because you don't always want the same thing out of
Right.
every game,
Yeah. What that
right?
was the
We
whole
we
point of this
play
game too, right?
Right, right. We play a old school BX game called Mega Dungeon every now and again.
Mhm.
Especially when people don't show up. It's kind of our go-to game. And it is just that. It's just kick down the door, kill the monster,
Yeah.
get the treasure, next room, rinse, repeat. And
Yeah.
that's super fun if you want to do that.
Yeah.
But I knew that they wanted, a depth from this game.
Sure, sure. So do you kind of have a ratio that you do, like, hey, I'm gonna do two combat encounters, a trap, and a treasure? Like, is there a set combination that you just know is your go-to, like your play that you always make?
Not really. Dungeons, I kind of feel them out,
Yeah.
right? You kind of you feel the rhythm of the dungeon.
Hmm. Oh, I like that.
That sounds
The
weird,
rhythm
yeah.
of the dungeon. Do you place yourself in there? Like, how do you feel the rhythm of the dungeon for somebody that has, like, Because
Yeah.
because you do that because you have all this experience, Steve. And what we
Right,
want to do
right.
with behind the keeper's screen is, at right now you would be what we call unconsciously competent, versus you could be consciously competent, unconsciously competent, and then you could be unconsciously incompetent and consciously incompetent. So that when you can move by feeling or like by breathing, it's almost like
Mhm.
you don't even think about it. It's like breathing to you, you know?
Right.
And so to empower our other castle keepers, like it's really great to be able to like really manifest that for them. Like how can they
Sure.
too build that skill?
Yeah, I mean, it's trial and error. I mean, of course, obviously you have to have a good imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Imagination is the heart of the game. So I am always imagining what, what the room looks like. For
Yeah.
example, okay, the very first room of the dungeon is this kind of dome room, and it has these sigils that are dancing on the walls. And I think I described it almost like a, oh, I think I even had to ask him in the game. What are those things?
Yeah.
Uh, like an astrolab or whatever,
Yeah.
kind of projecting on, these dancing things on the wall. And that's what I imagined. You kind of have to imagine yourself in
Yeah.
that room, how disorienting that would be.
Yeah.
And it took a little bit to describe that to the players, because it's something that's difficult. When you're just using your words,
Sure.
you really have to try and bring things to life, the real picture. Um and sometimes you don't get it right at first.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to try to elaborate and that sort of thing. But I think picturing yourself in the situation, trying to picture the room,
Yeah.
that's the best way. um
Like the different
I
senses, right? Like what you see, what you hear, what you
mhm,
smell. That's a kind of a good
mhm.
exercise.
I also like to draw out my dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you draw them out, and I'll sometimes make, I guess, what I would call visual notes,
Mm-hmm.
like a little shorthand picture, like a symbol, really, that only I know,
Sure.
right? But I know that this little symbol means treasure, or that it means trap,
Yeah.
or whatever, and I'll kind of put those all through the map, as I draw it, and then it's kind of a placeholder
Yeah.
for, okay, I know I want there to be a trap there, but I'm not exactly sure what the trap should be,
Yeah.
right? And then you can go back and you can refine. It's almost like, if you're a writer,
Mm-hmm.
right? You write your first draft. You don't turn that in,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't publish your first draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to keep going in and you refine. And it's the same thing with a dungeon, or really any planning for any role playing game, I think, is I'll often do some things, make a dungeon, design a room, and then walk away from it
Yeah.
and think about it.
Mm-hmm. Like out in the
A lot
world.
of my Right, a lot of my ideas are in the shower
Yep.
or driving, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
If I I'm not a huge fan of scrolling. We talked about this earlier,
Yeah.
screens. I'm not somebody that will like sit in a waiting room and scroll.
Yeah.
I'll sit in a waiting room and close my eyes and think about save hell,
Yeah.
and think about the next thing.
You go to the screen in your head.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Correct. Correct. And I think I said this before. I prefer to run games out of my head if I can. Now,
Yep.
not to say that I don't have notes.
Right.
Sometimes I have copious notes.
Sure.
But when I say that, I mean the rules.
Yes.
So, like Castles and Crusades is a really, like I said, it's a simple game. It's
Yep.
a game that I can run it from my head. And if there is a question
Right.
about something, it's easy to find that I think there's a point, and I'm not sure if it's in the first episode or not, where Dan asks me two-handed fighting. He says, "Is there two-handed fighting in Castles and
Yeah, he
Crusades?"
asked that. Yep.
And I say, "Yes, but I'm not 100% sure about the rule."
Yep.
And then I said, "Well, we'll look it up." He looked it up and like found it super quick.
Yeah.
And while we just rolled on and played, we didn't have to stop, we didn't have to do anything. Um, we just continued to roll on. He found the answer. I think he might have even typed it in chat. I believe for anybody who's curious, I think it's like -3, -6.
Yeah, it's something right
If
around
I'm
there.
if I'm
Yeah.
if I'm if I'm thinking about it right. And then
Unless
he
you're
said,
unless you're a
okay,
monk. Like monks get some badass stuff with two-handed.
right, right,
Yep.
or maybe a ranger.
Yeah.
Is there
You get
is
double
there
shot.
maybe I'll have to
There's a
look.
lot
Yeah.
of really cool like secondary attack stuff that happens.
Right, right.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, but it was so quick for him to find that out,
Yeah.
while we were playing. And that's what I like about Castles and Crusades, and that's what I mean by kind of run the game from your
Yeah.
head, is that uh, for the most part the rules are there.
Well, now that kind of we're reflecting on this, Steve, it really sounds like I feel like I'm hearing you say that Castles and Crusades really empowers you to tell your story because it doesn't get in the
Right,
way of telling your story, right? Because there could have been an entire
right.
like, all right, record scratch, everybody stop, let's look up two-handed fighting. Everybody grab and let's see what
Hmm.
it is. Oh, well, but do you have this feat? Or nope, it's just like
Right,
bloop, here it is. Okay, done.
right, exactly, exactly. And I mean that goes into combat as well.
Mhm.
One of the things, and I know a lot of people like this, but one of the things I don't like about a lot of the modern systems is you'll have like a bonus based on something that happened last round.
Oh
And so
man.
you kind of have to be keeping track of all these different things that kind of like stack. And it's like, yeah, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I like the very fast and smooth combat. Um, you know, Castles and Crusades gives me that. As a castle keeper, as a
Yep.
GM, I really like the fast combat, especially in theater of the mind.
Oh man. Well, that's where it shines too. Like, oh my gosh,
Right.
like I have not found quicker combat than Theater of the Mind, Castles and Crusades. And I would also say I have not found more rewarding combat because the stuff that you can do in Theater of the Mind and
Right.
at the speed that you can do it, and you will either succeed or you'll fail. And but you still fail forward, and there could be some cool
Hmm.
stuff that's happening here. Um,
Right.
well, Steve, so during these, I like to also do a little bit of recap of we've been playing your stream or your video in
Hmm.
the background here. I want to quick do
Right.
a share with you on Discord. We'll do it live here, so I'm going to do a share so you can hear the audio of
Okay.
this. So I don't have to tell it back to you here. Let me see if I can.
Right.
Maybe I can. Maybe I can't. We'll figure this out. Oh, here it is. Shared. We're going to share this window and we're going to share this screen here to share audio. Oh, tab or stream. Okay, let me do that. There we go. And then share audio. All right, perfect. So I'm going to do that. And then
Damn.
can
Oh,
you,
wait a minute.
That's a
No,
two.
That
It was a
that
two.
sucks.
Yep. I can
That
hear.
sucks.
Did my?
Because
Didn't register.
so it looks like we just got into
Oh yeah,
combat
I didn't
here.
Hmm.
I can't click a token.
Oh,
You-
and I
you
lost
can't
you.
click your
Hold on,
guy?
Let me
Nope,
get you back
cannot.
here.
what?
You can't
Switch
click
to- there you go.
your guy.
Nope,
I
Dang.
able to click my guy.
I can't click.
So this is a great example of
That's weird.
virtual tabletop.
So I drug him off.
Can't click my guy. I can't do the
Right.
thing,
Let me,
Can't click my guy.
Yeah.
Right.
which is kind of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's always a blast there. So how do you power through those kind of technical hurdles that can happen?
You just have to laugh them off and just roll on by.
Mm,
Um, like I said, sometimes with sometimes you can. I Fortunately not with this game, because like I said, we play Theater of the Mind.
Yeah.
With another game where we don't play Theater of the Mind, where we have battle maps and stuff,
Yeah.
I had Roll20 glitch out and show my entire map
Oh
that was
no.
not supposed to be shown
Yeah.
to every player.
Super spoiler alert.
Oh, super spoiler alert. Fortunately, it was at the very end of a session.
Yeah.
I was so mad that I redesigned the entire dungeon.
Oh, so the perils of online gaming, but there are also some sweet rewards that we
There
yeah.
are. Yeah, yeah.
Do you think
And
NPCs are easier to run virtually, or do you think NPCs, like, is there something about being able to do voices or kind of get out of your comfort zone, or you, because it's just you? So do you find NPCs
right,
easier to run
right.
virtually, or do you find NPCs easier to run when you're at a table?
I don't I don't have a problem either way. Um I I like doing voices. I like emoting is characters, and that's one of the things that I think I really like as about being a dungeon master
Yep.
or a castle keeper or a game master, whatever you might have it, uh, is to really inhabit some wild characters.
Yeah. Which we have a wild
So
one at the end of this episode that I can't wait to showcase for our audience. But
right,
continue on here.
yeah. So there's a bunch of different ways to come at it, but we have always done. I know not everybody does this, but we have always done voices,
Mhm.
right? I feel like, especially as the castle keeper, you voices help distinguish.
Yeah.
You know, if I create a very, very specific voice, sometimes I'll do impressions of celebrities, often badly. It gives a little unique thing. You kind of, and you get a picture in your head, like,
Yep.
oh, okay, I get it. I see who this is supposed to kind
Yeah.
of be. Um, but no, I don't find that there's any difference with playing online or playing in
Mhm.
person as far as me getting into NPC.
Yeah.
Um, I really like it. This game hasn't. There haven't been that many NPCs.
Yeah.
It's coming slowly but surely. There's going to be some more,
Yeah.
but that's the other thing that was kind of tough about this game is that when you don't have any NPCs to kind of poke your people along,
Right.
which you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is the role of the NPC is to
Yeah.
kind of poke, like, hey,
Yeah.
get going, guys, like,
Yeah.
do something. Um, you really have to make sure that your characters, your players are locked in,
Mhm.
and that their characters have something to do that's going to push them along, right?
Yep.
So that they're not just going to be sitting in the dungeon going, well, what are we doing next? Like, that room was empty.
Right. Well, here, and we're as we kind of wrap up here for time. Thank you so much, Steve, for talking with me
Yeah,
today. I want to see if I can zip ahead.
no problem.
I need it. So my one thing I keep saying every episode is I'm gonna get time codes. I'm gonna figure this out.
Timestamps.
That's right.
Yeah,
But I don't
I
have
heard
it.
you say that.
But there's gonna be
Ah,
I
shame,
know. I
shame.
deserve it. I deserve it. But you do this amazing we are in hell, and you at the end here do this amazing NPC who is this fun kind of low level devil, if you will, that starts to barter with the kind of offer. It got my hackles up. I'm like, oh geez, this is scary stuff. Let me see if I can skip ahead and find where we're at with him.
Atheist alone in his search. You kind
So let's.
Give my
You don't want to make a deal with no devil.
There we go.
Here we go.
I agree. Why would I ever want to make a deal with you?
To make it through this test of yours, I can offer you things that would help for a price.
Flawless. Look
Dun,
at them
dun,
all. They're
dun.
like,
Why don't you
I can't touch this.
sit and negotiate with me? Nivelin likes negotiations. He does.
Dude, they are
Nibbler pulls out a
terrified.
L.
Look at them. They're like, I don't know. I can't do
He might.
anything.
Don't tempt him.
Like, they're seriously like, look at them right now. They're
Mm.
like,
Uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like
Don't
Garrett
get me wrong,
shifts
I
in
like
his seat.
Yeah.
negotiation too, but I don't know if we're really on an even playing field for negotiating here.
I think it was unexpected. Hmm.
yes. Yes. Well, because this is the
Because
first.
Reginald Sinclair.
Ooh,
It knows your name.
how does he know the name?
It knows your
Really?
name.
How do you know my name?
Ah, formalities.
Dude, he's just so great. Like, I just envision this devil in his business suit. Like, he's here to deal, man. He's here to deal.
Right, right. And if you would have gone back just a little bit before when I described the room,
Yeah.
it's not a dungeon
Right,
room. They
right.
walk into essentially an office
Yes.
with a nice table, kind of office chairs, plush. There's wood paneling on the wall.
Yeah. It's like it is hell for people that have worked in
Right.
cubicles. Like, oh, Jiminy.
Right, right.
So so you were kind of talking, so you've been doing, I mean, obviously you love doing the voices. So talk to me about,
Mhm.
so this guy, what's his name again? Nivelin. Yes, Nivelin. Which that was a good, thank you for the layup on that name. That's a good one. So Nivelin, so what, no spoilers on Nivelin, but at the end, you guys have to see this episode. A barter is made. Which character?
A barter is made.
You will have to watch Save Hell episode 1 to find out. But before we go, Steve, talk to me about Nivelin and kind of where you were at with him, and then maybe give me where we're at. Yeah, let's just talk about Nivelin here.
So when I do NPCs, Nivelin or any other NPC, I don't have like a script.
Yeah,
Like I don't, no box text here.
yeah,
What I do is to create an NPC, you need to know what they want,
yep.
right?
Motivation.
And what they're willing to do to get it.
Yep.
You just have to know the character. And so that's what I try and do. Nivelin is a very, very simple character. He's there for one reason and one reason only.
Mm,
He's there to barter, he's there to make a deal.
yeah.
Treat with me, he says, have a seat. And that's his only thing. That's his business. So really, I just stayed focused on that no matter what.
Yeah. Well, and it shows. And these guys, you drove a hard bargain. Let's just say that, because it skews, not, I don't want to get too spoilery, but it skews kind of Godfathery here a little bit. Like, we'll see. One day I may ask a favor.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Right. And I think one day it's going to come down possibly to semantics, because there's some wording, and you'll have to ho ho ho. Right. So there's some vagaries, I
Yes.
think, in this contract.
Yeah.
That
Oh my gosh. Signed in
could
blood.
right, and could come back to haunt not just one of the party members, but maybe all three.
Oh man. Well, so you said before that you've kind of recorded, you've been recording these, so there's
Mhm.
so people don't have to worry about, you got them and you're going to be doling them out over time.
Right.
So
Right. The way that we do it is
Yep.
we record 2 sessions, or we record 2 episodes at a time. So we record kind of a long episode, like a long session.
Sure.
And then we break those up, but we're about 2 months ahead.
Nice. That's got to feel good
So
as
that
a content
way,
creator. It's got to feel really good.
big cushion
Yeah.
for us. Big cushion. We initially wanted to start in the summer. Everybody had already made summer plans.
hmm
And so there were no weekends free for us to do anything, and we just weren't able to do it. So we pushed it back. But I think that was for the better because it helped us. We were able to kind of develop things a little bit more. And yeah, I'm really happy
No, it's
with the
fantastic.
way that everything's turning out. Yeah, I'm
Well,
having a lot of fun. They're
you
having a lot of fun.
there's a lot of fun to be had with even just the name, guys. Dix in the Dark,
Yeah.
Dix in the
Yes.
Dark, D&D. Definitely want to be subscribing, checking out Save Hell episode 1. Out now.
Appreciate it.
Episode 2 could even be out. Check the calendar, guys. Is it the 18th?
Right.
Is it not?
Right.
We gotta do this. You gotta get going. So, Steve, any last thoughts here with the last minute that we have?
Well, thank you so much. I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
This has been a wonderful conversation. Be happy to talk to you anytime again. Yeah, this has been great. I just, anybody out there watching, um, check us out. Give us a sub. Check out Save Hell. It's good.
That's
It's good
right.
stuff. I promise.
It is good stuff. Awesome. Well, DM Steve, everybody, thank you so much. Big round of applause, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Johnny.
for being here today, and make sure to keep on keeping on here at Behind the Keeper's Screen.
Heck yeah.